Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be talking about the animated film Moana. So we are going into spoilers here. So if you haven't seen it, go and check it out, and then come back and watch this video. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We already talked about Moana we talked about Raya earlier in the segment, and now we're talking about Moana, and we talked about how these two have certain similarities, but it sounds like we both enjoyed Moana way more than we enjoyed Raya. Why do you think you enjoyed Moana more than Raya?
I think it's just much more emotional, I guess you could say. I feel more connected to the characters. I feel there's more at stake. It's very different. I think one of the reasons why I didn't initially like it is because it was kind of crazy. But I think I appreciate it more. And when I say crazy, I mean like it's weird. Like the tattoos move and the mountain moves and there's this giant lava thing and everything. But I also feel like they do a pretty good job of setting up the nature of this world. Like there's more world building in this that makes it more acceptable. But I didn't really I didn't really hone in on that until this second time that I watched it.
Yeah, when I first watched it, I liked it, but I might like it more now after a second watch. But because I liked it, but I didn't think it was like that great. But when I'm watching it, I'm listening to the music, and the music is great. The character interactions, like maybe one of the things this movie has basically, two main characters that have speaking roles, and that's, Maui and
Hey,
Moana.
hey.
And you said what?
Hey, hey.
Yes. Uh, and seeing those two interact, they it's a really good it's a really good dynamic. It's interesting, it's fun, it's antagonistic, and at the same time, it allows for both characters to grow. Both of those characters can grow during the course of the movie. And that's what I think is great because I think for most of that movie, Maui is actually kind of the antagonist.
Yeah, and I was gonna say actually, I didn't really pick up on this until after I watched it this time. There really isn't a villain. There
Mm-mm.
are like I guess maybe the crab, but he's not the villain of the show. And I guess you could say the villain of the show is technically Maui, but at the same time he's also the hero. And so I think that maybe this is one of the reasons why I appreciate this movie so much more is because of how like unique that is. It's not very easy to write a movie in that way where you don't have a villain and it's just two people who are interacting and throughout the movie and like sometimes they're helping each other, sometimes they're not helping each other, but they're like friends, but then they're not friends. And I think that's a very special writing there for this movie in that way, for those two characters to be together and to not really have a clear antagonist. Not even like a complex antagonist, there just isn't really one.
Yeah, it's one of the things like we were talking about Raya. I think that a lot of these movies have started trying to shift towards that, like not having a true antagonist. But the way this movie handles it is very well done, and it still has a lot of the formulas that you would expect in a Disney film. As far as like what happens at the beginning of the movie, and then the characters like kind of butting heads, but then they come together, but then something bad happens where they're torn apart, but then they come together at the end of the movie to solve the problem and it's happily ever after. So that's all here in Moana. There's nothing that's breaking the mold with that structure, but it is the way the characters are handled, the way they're written, the way they interact with one another, the way they play off one another. It all works to create something that feels a little bit more unique and also something that's aware of what it is. Because Maui straight up says, "You're a princess. You have an animal sidekick. You're a princess," and you're just like, "Yeah." there's an animal sidekick. Every of these Disney movies has an animal sidekick. Thank you, Maui.
Yeah, and the other thing he says is why didn't the ocean just bring right the heart back itself, and why didn't the ocean just do all this stuff if the ocean can already do all these things? And I didn't remember that at the end of the first time I watched it. And I was like, why did they have to do all this when the ocean could have just done it? But I like the fact that I picked up on that Maui said that, because they are basically telling us, think about it, like, why is this happening? And the reason why it's happening is because they both need to grow and they both need to do it together. And the reason why they need to do it together is because they're both basically opposites and they need each other to bring them each to a place where they can be like complete, I guess. It's it's like a finding yourself identity, who am I kind of thing. And it's just nice how they really needed each other to figure out who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And that whole thing with the ocean, I thought was interesting because when I watched this movie before, and even when I watch it sometimes now, I would just laugh and be like, "Yo, this ocean is a jerk," because the first time Moana gets on her boat, she goes to go sailing and then almost drowns and dies, and you're just like, "Wait a second!" But the ocean is her friend, which means the ocean had no problem with her like almost killing herself just now. Why did the ocean do anything to save her? And so I find myself asking all these questions throughout the movie. Just like, yo, this ocean's a jerk. And then when Maui says, "Oh, well, why didn't the ocean bring me my hook? Why didn't the ocean like take it back to whatchamacallit, to put it in like the ocean self? Like, why didn't it do it?" And then I was like, oh, okay, I get it. The movie is purposely making this choice.
Yeah, and I like that they did that, because basically they're saying like, this is not a plot hole.
Right?
Despite what people would in what they would instinctively think, I guess is what
Yeah.
you could say. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things about this movie that are so great. It's funny. There's a lot of great moments. The songs are all really awesome. I don't think there's any song that I don't like, and they're all like, it's just really emotional. Like, there are so many powerful things, from like just the way they shoot animated everything. It just looks so good, and everything is just presented in a powerful way. And if you think about the fact that they're not filming it, they had to create all of this from scratch. They really picked a lot of great imagery and like the choices for, like showing the voyagers, the explorers, and just them like riding on their little rafts and everything, to the really cool coconut pirates who are really cute, but then they like put things on their face and then they look scary.
Yo,
And
those
they're
coconut pirates are like one of the best parts about this movie because they're basically Mad Max Fury Road on the ocean, and I love it.
it reminded me of One Piece, the anime. Like, because their boat is like so big, and like it just doesn't look like, boats don't work like that.
No, it doesn't. Their boat literally splits into other boats.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's like the point that I was making earlier, is that they they don't really specifically show you the world building. They just do it, and everything just works together, and like, this is the kind of world where these weird things happen, and it's just acceptable, because this is not like the real world. This is a fantasy world, and we're letting you know that by showing you all these things along the way, why it's not it's not a regular world. And I like
Right.
the way they do that. Like, they don't spend any time on it at all to show you that this world is different. They just do it.
No, yeah, exactly. Even with the fact that the crops and stuff just start dying, and it's related to the magic that's been lost, like, and then once the heart's returned, and then both of these movies had to deal with hearts. Dragon heart or the heart of the mountain, um, or the heart of the island. But yeah, in the funny scenes in the movie just kind of surprised me. When after so when Moana gets shipwrecked, when she on the island that Maui's on, and like that was another moment where I was just saying to myself, "Yeah, the ocean's a jerk," and she literally goes to the ocean and says, "Seriously?" Like, thank you. That's what I was thinking. I actually would be upset if she didn't say anything, and then she yelled at the ocean and says, "Fish pee in you." Like, you tell him, girl. You tell him. So the comedy just really surprised me how much I enjoyed it. But then even so, like the emotional sequences, I I'm always impressed with how shows or movies that are meant for kids creatively try to illustrate death in um in their works. And with this one, when the grandmother passed, it was done by the lights going out in the hut and then immediately seeing the stingray of swimming through the ocean, and you know what happened. So, which is a beautiful sequence, and I'm always just impressed to see moments like that handled with care because it resonates with me.
Yeah. It's just another thing where like they show you, not tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just so much about the way the movie carries itself is just fun. And Dwayne Johnson does a great job voice acting Maui. And I forget the girl's name that did Moana, but I feel like this was her first ever voice acting gig,
I think it
right?
was, yeah. And she did a, an amazing job. And she's
Right.
gone off doing more things after that too. So good for her.
I mean, what an amazing opportunity. So, yeah, I mean, and then the whole thing with, I guess the twist in this movie is that the lava monster is the same person or same entity goddess that got her heart stolen by Maui, excuse me, in the beginning. Um, it's not a crazy twist, but I guess, it works for the story.
Yeah, I actually liked that twist because it goes hand in hand with the whole, identity thing, um,
Hmm.
where like she didn't know who she was, and she had to have Moana, you know, basically talk to her and be like, "This is not who you are. You know who you are," and give her
Right.
back the heart, and then she basically returns back to normal. And I think that just um, kind of ties up very neatly for Maui and Moana because those are the same moments. Um, that whole scene. That's when both of them really figure out who they are, and so they're all three of them figuring it out at the same time. So
Right. So if the theme in Raya was forgiveness or excuse me,
trust,
trust, the theme of this movie, would you say, is discovering who you are,
identity, yeah.
identity? Yeah. No, it's interesting because these Disney movies always have these kind of structures, and the central conflict that is presented in the beginning of the movie with her father is her father trying to tell her what her identity is, saying like this suits you, when she's doing something that she doesn't actually want to be doing, and actively fighting against who she would rather be, and him fighting that too. And so the discover basically choosing your own identity, you leaning into who you actually are rather than a role that's been assigned to you, which is also what that other song was about, right? She's going and saying everybody has their role, so I guess I can roll with mine.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and
yeah,
I like to call that like a freedom song because she's like seeking freedom and I, like the Little Mermaid has one. Even
Mhm.
Hercules has one.
Right.
And I love those songs, and they're not every Disney movie musical has that. But
Hmm.
for the ones that do, I think like they feel very relatable, I guess, because and I think that's why they are so loved is because of how relatable they are. Not like they sound good too, but I think that it resonates a lot for people.
Right. No, absolutely. And yeah, one thing I got to bring up, hey, hey, that little chicken, that little chicken would have died a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't really get the point of he doesn't really add.
Anything.
Yeah, he's just kind of there and for like comic relief, I guess. But then he is kind of annoying.
Yes, I hate hey hey like almost as much as I hate Jar Jar Binks. And that is saying something. And like this chicken literally doesn't even know how to properly eat.
Yeah,
So this thing would be dead by now. Um, and it's so weird because the movie tricks you into thinking that the little pig is going to be the animal companion, but the little pig is left behind. And you get stuck with this dumb chicken
yeah.
for
I
the rest
like
of
the
the movie.
pig. I think it would have been so much better to have the pig.
The pig would have done something. I mean, hey, save the heart at one point, but hey, also ate the heart at one point. So
Yeah,
I can't. I kind of wish Maui just ate him,
yeah.
but then Maui might have inherited it stupid. So I guess it's a good thing he didn't.
Yep. And there were a few plants and payoffs. Like when he turns into the whale, and then he uses that later to battle.
Ash water.
Yeah. Um, and then he turns into Sven from Frozen at one
I
point.
saw that briefly.
And that's how Frozen came out first.
Right. Yeah. No, I like it when they do those little Easter eggs. I didn't watch an Easter egg video in this movie, but I'm sure there's a bunch of other um a bunch of other ones in there. I forget the name of the room, the studio that they a room that they shoot in, the numbers that are in like every Pix no, that's a Pixar movie. Never mind. That's not Disney. So never mind. Forget what I was saying.
Okay. Sure. Um, so I really like the crab. I know we kind of talked about the crab a little bit before this, but did you know that what's his name? Tamatoa is an homage to Ursula. So okay,
No.
I see your face, being all confused and surprised. So he says that he's a decapod, but he only has 8 legs, and he's purple. That's a total nod to Ursula.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize that. I mean, obviously in the after credit sequence, he talks about how if he was a crab with a Jamaican accent,
Named
that people would help him.
Sebastian. He's like, if my name was Sebastian. Yeah, they were totally giving a nod to Ursula. So,
That's cool. Ursa's a great villain.
yeah.
So
And so is Tamatoa, even though he's not really a villain. He
I don't
has a
know.
great
I think Tamatoa
song.
was the most Tamatoa was the most sinister thing in that movie. Like we were talking about this on our channel. How Tamatoa was like, I literally thought that he was going to eat Moana. There's one point where he's holding her like this. I'm like, I feel like he was about to pull her apart. I was scared I was scared for them with Tamatoa.
It was funny though. The funniest moment for me in this movie when he was like talking to her and he was like, "Just pick an eye. It's distracting."
Just pick an eye. It's distracting. Are you trying to get me to talk about myself? I would love to.
He's the best. He's definitely my favorite character in this movie, and it's not because he's purple. Although that
Oh, I'm
helps a
sure
little
that's
bit.
not the reason.
I just also like his song because he's like, I'm shining. So
Yeah,
I know you really like Maui and you really like Maui's song. I'm not sure about the rest of the songs, but I do know that the same guy who wrote um, Hamilton also
yeah,
wrote,
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
yeah, and I didn't know that before, and I was like, wow, actually, that's pretty awesome. And now I could see like why Maui Song is so like different and cool and like unique. It's so good. Like, I mean, I hate it because of Maui's character, but it's a good song.
It's great. Like I love that song so much, and yeah, I didn't know which songs Lin-Manuel did, and I actually forgot that he had done that he worked on this movie until I saw the credits again. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he did Maui's song and that he wrote Maui's song, and it's a really good combination of talking and singing and like the whole telling a story. It's great. And one of the best parts of that song is when he says, "I'm gonna need that boat" in the middle of the song, and you're just like, "Wait a second." He just said he was going to take your boat. I don't know if you heard of Moana, but also, was he going to leave her in the cave to die? Like, what was she going to
I
do if she didn't get
know.
out of there?
Yeah.
She was going to die,
And his tattoo was like, you're not being cool, dude.
right? Yeah, I thought it was interesting how because most of the time in these movies, like if you think of Mulan, there's usually or even Aladdin, there's kind of two animal sidekicks. It's Carpet and
Abu.
Abu, or it's Mulan's horse and Mushu and the cricket. So in this one, it's interesting that it's the water, the chicken, and his tattoo, which is a very unique kind of companion because none of them speak, but they kind of show their personalities, except for the chicken. The chicken's just dumb, but the other two do.
The sidekicks, yeah.
Oh my God. Like there's that one moment where the water, literally, the chicken walks in the water and then water picks it up, like throws it into a basket, covers the basket, and throws it into the storage container of the ship, then closes the lid and then hits it
Covers it.
just like just like stay in there and then goes away. That dumb chicken.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, that chicken was just too much. It was,
Yes.
yeah, I did not like the chicken at all.
Mm-mm. I don't think anyone did, but if you did, nothing wrong with that. But man, I hated that thing. I wanted them to like let it drown or for Maui to cook it. But anyway, yeah, I kind of run through my like kind of list of like hit points. Any closing thoughts that you kind of had that you want to get off your chest before we end?
No, I mean, I thought that this movie was a lot better the second time. And I don't know if it's because I watched Raya and the Last Dragon right before, which was a very similar movie. There's a lot of similarities from like the way they have like a telling of the history and they use like different animation for it. And then they have this like crystal slash stone that they have
They
to
have to
like,
retrieve.
yeah, and then it's just a lot.
Both movies even have a time skip.
A time skip. Oh yeah, that's true. Well, I mean that happens a lot, and there's a lot of things that they do in a lot of these Disney slash Pixar movies. So,
Right.
but these two were coincidentally because we didn't really plan it that way. They were really similar. And we were gonna watch
I was
Frozen, which is
surprised.
completely
Yeah,
yeah.
right. I was surprised and impressed. I
Yeah.
don't know how he did that.
Yeah. It just worked
So
out.
Yeah, nah, it did. And I'm like you. I had the same kind of feeling. I enjoyed it a lot more the second time. I remember the first time I didn't enjoy Moana that much, but even though I liked it, but I liked it a lot more, and maybe Raya had something to do with it. So who knows? But what did you guys think about the movie? Did you have you seen Moana? What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, and subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and we will see you all next time.